All right, everybody. So I'm here with Emily Wilson. I feel like it only made sense that for my first official Respectfully interview, I had to bring on the person who has arguably supported me the longest in this space, which is so ironic because you literally hate everyone.
I really do. I don't think people understand that my original content and my content now that I'm going back into, because I just feel like it's the only way to like stay authentic and relevant as well, is like my content comes from me going outside, because you have to go outside sometimes, and then realizing that I don't like people. And it's gotten to the point where I don't even want to work with people anymore. The thought of it, just like, I basically go into social settings and have like a panic attack and I get overstimulated. And now I'm like, I think I want to go volunteer at local animal shelters to walk dogs, because I do not want to help people anymore.
No, it's so true, because when people ask me, they're like, are you ever afraid you're going to run out of content? I'm like, I live in Los Angeles. I can go on any walk in any neighborhood and I'm going to have an entire plethora of things to talk about. So
you'll have an encounter.
Always.
Yeah.
Oh, we definitely got to talk about your encounter.
Which one? There's so many.
Tell us about what happened with you and this Hollywood producer, because that is still one of the craziest things I've heard about.
It's like the stupidest situation, which is so crazy. So a company sends me shoes, and they are red and they say like MAGA on them, and they're almost like kind of like croc material. And I was like, these are cool. So I'm just walking around my neighborhood and I'm literally by myself and I have AirPods in. I'm like minding my own business, and I'm at like a super busy intersection, like right on the border of Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, which, like, in case you don't know, Beverly Hills is basically like 80% Republican. So it's funny to think like it's a liberal area. It's not. And all of a sudden I'm just like minding my own business, and like there was women around me and they were kind of staring at me. So I was like, oh, clearly like I should probably see what's happening. And I just hear this guy and he's just screaming like, you support a rapist. And so immediately I'm like, do I beg your pardon? Like, like what? And he's like, you support a rapist. And I was like, who are you even talking about? Like, I was like, well, first of all, we're in Hollywood, so you're going to have to specify.
Right.
That doesn't really narrow it down.
It's like half of the population here.
Yeah, it's like half of the hills. Like, what do you mean? Like, let's narrow it down. So and then I realized he goes, you're wearing MAGA shoes in West Hollywood. And I'm like, well, first of all, you're stupid, because we're technically at the border of Beverly Hills. Okay? Technically.
They don't even know geography these days.
Yeah, they don't. And I was like, if we were on the other side of the street, it would be different. And I just was like, okay. And then he starts harassing me. And then it gets to the point where I'm like, okay, like, you know, and then he starts talking, and then he goes, well, you know, you deserve to be raped. And I'm like, what? And then I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I start recording him, and it's crazy. And the craziest part about him is like any normal person, if you pull out a camera, is immediately going to shut up, because then it's like game on. And he doesn't. I deserve to get raped.
You do.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You're wearing MAGA shoes in
Yeah.
West Hollywood.
Yeah, I am. I'm wearing my dope MAGA
Like
shoes.
I said, go back a racist.
Yeah.
He's convicted for rape. It's
Not.
also illegal to film somebody in California.
Oh, what are you
without
going
their
to do
consent.
about it?
Nothing, you dumb c***. You ugly bitch.
Wouldn't
You've
know.
definitely been raped, and you're okay with it.
He just continues to say, like, you look like you've been raped. You're going to get what's coming to you, which is also a threat at that point.
Literally.
And yeah, and then it was crazy because I was like, oh, this is just some psycho liberal. He also had a big dog and was like, you know, it's not like he was gonna like sick the dog on me, but you know, he's like 6 foot something and I'm a girl alone. I don't have like anything on me besides like my phone, but I just filmed because it was like just self-defense at that point in case he was like gonna attack me. But yeah, and then he ends up being like a Hollywood producer, and he was like one of the guys that helped produce like American Sniper, which is so funny. It's like the most beloved by Republicans film. Like, what? How does this happen?
Maybe that's why he's so bitter. It's like, I want to play his entire clip, but we're going to have to go through and doctor it so much because it's like censoring a rap song, because there's so much profanity and like the things he's wishing upon you and threatening you with. Like, that was one of the wildest things I've seen in a long time. And it shows just like how crashed out these leftists have become.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the epitome of like, you're mentally ill, but you're using politics to like have something to be upset about. Like, he would be upset either way, but I think politics really set people over the edge who were like already not doing well, because now I run into people all the time and they're like, he's crazy. Like, I have people in the industry reach out to me privately. You know, someone told me the first thing he asked people at work is, who'd you vote for?
Allegedly.
Apparently. I was told.
Because, he's a little Sue happy. So I just want to say allegedly on everything that we don't have on video.
Well, and then Kits in Los Angeles, shout out to them. We love them. They put him in the window, which is hilarious.
It's like a wanted sign. I think my favorite part of it still is like he wished all these terrible things on you, and then you go to his page.
Oh no, let me tell you, this is how crazy these people are. He wishes all these things, but also he called me ugly, which I was like, I'm probably the rest of these things. I am not ugly, sir. Also so weird. And then like it's just weird. Like, why are you like 60 years old calling some random chick ugly on the street?
He's not even attracted to women anyway. He needs to stay in his lane.
Yeah, and I was like, you're not even straight, so why would my looks even affect you at all? Like,
he wants to look like you, but that's the real tea.
Maybe. I don't know. But it was crazy because like the irony of the whole situation is like we go and we find his social media and the first post is him with a Kamala Harris sticker and it says hashtag like protect women. And
as he's wishing upon you.
Yeah. And I'm like, you really can't even like make it up with these people. They're literally like insane. And also it's like, do you not realize like it's so like we are a mixed country. Like you're encountering Republicans everywhere you go. Like people like, at restaurants or your servers or people at a grocery store or people you work with or someone, it's like so silly that it's like, I'm such this like crazy target. And I'm like, really? You're around wealthy elitist people. Most of them are right wing anyways.
Yeah.
And I just was like, what a psychopath. So I don't know. He seems fun. I just wanted to go. You know what? People actually told me in the video, they were like, I can't believe how calm you were. Like we would have been losing our minds. And I was like, well, half the video I'm laughing.
Yeah. I mean, that's all you can really do with these people at this point. It's just like point and laugh at the stupidity that they're displaying.
Insane.
Respectfully, of course.
Yeah, but I just kept being like, you're like insane. Like, what do you want me to like say to any of this? Like, thank you.
Well, people always have a lot to say about you. Part of what inspired this new series I'm going to start doing, because, this is called the Allegations Against Emily Saves America, is I don't think there's anyone that I know on a personal level that has more made up narratives about them than you, to the point that there are entire Reddit threads making just like false allegations about your backstory, who you are, what you believe in. And I just want to get into that tea.
Yeah.
And see what's true and what's not.
Well, it's kind of weird. Like, I make the least amount of sense to target because I would say out of like anyone in the industry, I kind of made a platform being honest about myself and honest about my past. So it's like anyone who were to ask me about it, I would tell them honestly. Like everyone knows, like I used to be a club girl, party girl, like whatever. I've been honest about like drinking and things like that in the past. So it's kind of weird to even make things up because I'm like, I could give you just real stories if you'd really like those.
I mean, I feel like, and I relate to this to an extent too, because with my background being in BLM and like being where we are now, a lot of people are that much more threatened by the fact that we have a backstory of we haven't always believed this way. Like, shout out to all the conservatives who've been conservative their entire life. But it's like, that's not our journey and our story. And because like we've been there and done that with so many things, we are able to connect with so many other types of people because of that. And that's what's threatening to the left, because people are able to see the journey that you've been on. And then they're terrified now because you are leading the way for these other people to go on that journey too.
Yeah. And I'm like, they're like upset. Like I got out of it. And that's why I don't understand when people are like, dude, you used to be so cool. It's like the most like mentally ill and unhappy I've ever been in my life is when I was on the left. So to even promote that, I would be like, I would assume I'm doing just like a disservice at this point, because why would I want people to be like unhappy and miserable and unhealthy?
Right. Well, let's get into these allegations. We got to start with the good one first. Emily Wilson, is it true that you want to bring back slavery?
Yeah. Yes. It's really funny. Obviously, that clip was like really taken out of context, but I guess people can't like tell that I'm joking. But that clip, that is going to be the clip that follows me for like the rest of my life. But I'm fine with it because like like anyone with a brain like can see what I'm saying, and it's also funny. It's
like, I know you well enough to know your sarcasm, but I feel like anybody with common sense or even just a basic sense of humor would have seen your sarcasm. Let's go ahead and play that clip.
If everyone in a state wants something, go ahead and have it.
So if everyone in Alabama wanted slavery back, you'd be okay with that?
Sure. If everyone in the state wants it, go ahead.
His face is so funny.
He was so gagged. I figured if I was going to show this clip to you for the millionth time, I was like, let me at least find one that'll make you laugh.
Yeah, that one's funny. I've seen people like his face.
I can only imagine the harassment that you're getting because I get tagged in this video every single day of people still to this day, months later, being like, how can you support this girl? And it's like the whole premise of the argument is stupid because he's trying to stretch this logic of saying like, oh, well, if everybody in the state wants abortion, then we should just have slavery be the same concept. It's like, and then he says, that's how you test logic. It's like, no, that's literally an outlier. That is a red herring. That is like, when you bring in an exaggerated version to try to compare to something, you have lost the argument.
Well, that's what I was saying. I said the whole time, like, you can't argue about anything that's going on right now. So, or anything that's just logical. So you're bringing up hypotheticals, which don't make sense because you can't just mix situations. Like slavery, first of all, you're talking about slavery historically. And which is funny.
Hundreds of years ago, mind you.
As you're completely ignoring the slavery going on all around the world right now,
okay,
which I think is interesting. Don't see him bringing that up or bringing any attention to it since it's such a topic he's so, heated about. But it's just like they're two different things. It's like when people compare suffering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can't compare people's suffering because people are different. The hardest day of someone's life is like the easiest day of someone else's life. But that's how I just think you're losing an argument when you have to go to like hypothetical situations, which is so dumb. Why don't we just talk about real situations? But also, I was just having consistency.
Right.
Like, also, it's like, okay, I guess if like 100% of a state wanted something, like, sure, just let them have it. Like, I don't understand anymore.
I mean, you get to a point where you just get so tired of playing these people's stupid little games where you're just like, sure,
well,
why
that's what
not?
it was. No one saw that I was sat there for 4 hours at nighttime just being like, so like, actually, like, what do you think about this? For like literally 4 hours, to the point where I was like, I don't think about anything. I don't care. Whatever you say, I would just say yes to get out of this room. I mean, in case you don't see it, I'm literally like slumped over. I'm in a sweatshirt and I just go,
over it.
Sure. Honestly, whatever you think about me, it's true.
That has been my MO. I'm like, when you hear something about Xaviaer DeRusso, believe it.
No, literally.
Believe it. Because I don't have time to sit here and debunk every single false like narrative that someone decides to bring up about me. I want to bring up the quadrant of the white dudes for Harris.
Oh, God.
Because for the people who don't know, that was Dean Withers. He's like one of the biggest like left-wing political
wow, I
influencers.
can't believe they lost.
And it's like, I just want to break this up. Walk with me, dare I say. So starting from left to right, you have Dean Withers, who is notoriously arrogant. I feel like all four of these people represent why the left is losing.
Yeah.
Because you have Dean that is arrogant. You have Parker, the tall one next to Dean. He's just condescending if you see any of his Jubilee debates. Then you have Chris, who's just wildly over-emotional, but at least he's funny. I will say Chris is funny. And then you have Harry, who is just so wildly disingenuous because you know good and well he doesn't believe any of the grift that he's saying. But what I like, Harry is my favorite.
Oh,
because
he's
Harry's
my favorite
getting a
too.
bag.
Yeah.
He is so in his bag. Allegedly, even though we've literally seen the trace of the money.
Yeah.
This guy's getting paid like $250,000 per agreement to promote just idiot.
Yeah, they're just jealous of him at this point.
Yeah, like I want to get a bag like Harry. I wish I could be the grifter that Harry Sisson is.
Okay, wait. Do you not think it's funny though? Like when you look at the photo, considering the left constantly talks about diversity, they literally are carbon copies. They're literally like, are they? I don't know if they're straight. We'll just assume for now. They're literally just 4 white dudes. Like, that's who you have representing your party.
Hey, white dudes for Harris. This was the group that was bringing back white masculinity to the left.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't like the whole condescending thing. The issue I had with him the second time, which is why I just got up and left, because I was like, at a certain point, it's disrespectful because my time is valuable, is he just kept saying, you're dumb, you're uneducated, you're uneducated. And I was like, it's kind of funny you think that, like, that actually matters. Mm-hmm. So with my lack of education, there we go, I still am able to be smarter and have more common sense than you. So I don't know. It's like, I guess, like, you're winning by calling someone dumb.
Yeah, and it's also just funny to me how it's always supposed to be about supporting women and being on the side of like protecting women, all these different things, but there he is degrading you, which every single feminist should be disgusted by that, because why is he talking to a woman like that?
Oh yeah, he's like literally calling me a
Yeah.
And I'm like sitting there, and then ironically, I called him out. I was like, isn't it super elitist that you're saying that I'm uneducated and stupid because I couldn't afford to go to college?
Right. Clock it.
And I was like, isn't that kind of like elitist of you?
And it is elitist. And that's the thing, is like the left tries to act like the right is the side that's just like all these rich oil billionaires and stuff. It's like the right is the working class. The elite people are on the left. I mean, Kamala Harris raised $1 billion in a span of months for her campaign. So that just by definition just shows that their side is full of the elite. It's full of the aggressive, like the over the top educated. And the reason I say over the top is because these people go and get 5,000 degrees that apply to nothing relevant in the world. And then they will sit there and try to degrade you when the average voter is not out here going and racking up degrees like they are. So it's
I was like, what an ironic like privilege. It's like a little like white boy sitting here telling me I'm stupid because I couldn't afford to go to college. Like the irony of that is crazy.
Well, let's get into your next allegation. So you're just living off of daddy's money, right?
Yeah, apparently. Wouldn't that be nice?
What do you have to say about this like constant narrative that you are just this spoiled, rich, privileged white girl?
I don't get it because I wish I was. And if I was, I would throw it in everyone's face 24/7. That's what I don't understand.
So if you don't mind getting into it, what is your actual situation? Like, did you grow up with money? Did you come from money?
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, you know, I'll keep it subtle because everyone's like a sick psychopath. But no, we lived like on the beach in Seal Beach, which is not like a crazy wealthy area by any means. And also, you know, my parents are in their 70s and 80s, so they bought this a long time ago. But yeah, like we lived on the beach, and then like, you know, my parents got divorced, and through divorce, you usually lose a lot of money and real estate. And it was like, you know, it was like me and my mom and sister at some point, like a 1-bedroom, you know. And then like, you know, everyone did make the best financial decisions, but no, I mean, my dad has always helped me out by putting a roof over my head, which I think is like great. And, you know, if I was like in really hard times, like he would never let me be homeless. And if he had the money to help me with a bill, like, of course he would. Like, he's always taken care of me in that sense. But that's taking care of you in things so you're not like on the street, not like luxury handbags and things like that. And my dad's 83 and he still works full time. And I'm actually very proud of that. And my mom is in her 70s. I can't even keep track anymore. And she works full time and is actually like on her feet. So I'm actually like really proud of my family. I think it's really awesome. And like, I just want to work hard to like help take care of them. So.
You know, that's something that I've always admired about you. Ever since we started being friends, one of the first things that people always ask, well, first they ask if you have a boyfriend, and then they ask if you care to cheat.
Yeah, literally.
And then after that, they start asking me about your background. Like, they assume you come from all this money and just literally just looking at you and assuming that you come from all this privilege. But one of the first things they learned about you was how hard you work. And I remember when I met you, you were working multiple jobs. You were trying to build yourself in the right-wing space, even though nobody wanted to see you win. Literally nobody. And since the day I met you, you've told me that the reason that you work as hard as you do is because you want to be able to help your dad retire.
Yeah.
And I feel like people don't get to see that side of you often because you are tough as nails.
Well, it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
And also you kind of see what sick psychopaths people are. Like, you know, you tell a little bit about yourself and then people kind of run away with it, which is a little gross. So like I have, you know, my privacy is everything to me. But it's also why I don't care what people think about me, because at the end of the day, my dad's proud of me. He lets me know that. And as long as I can take care of him, then I don't really care what anyone else thinks. That's the whole goal. So it is what it is.
You know, that's another narrative that people say. They're like, your dad must be so ashamed of you. They act like you're an OnlyFans girl.
Yeah, literally.
So, Emily, being hot's the only reason you're successful, right?
Yeah, apparently that. And, you know. Everyone just is. It's funny, like this whole thing of like, oh, you like slept your way to the top. And I'm like, yeah, but then I would be at the top 4 years ago. Why would I have to work to get there like I have? It's
right.
Really interesting. Yeah, that's a generic one. Oh, you like slept with someone. No, I've had like a boyfriend this entire time. Everyone knows that. I don't think anyone was really like hooking me up or giving me like handouts. So I don't know. I mean, there's obviously a couple people in the industry that were awesome. Like Grant Stinchfield. Put me on Newsmax, so I do thank him. And then, I think it was Jack Flanagan that reached out to put me on Fox for the first time. So, you know what? Thank you to them. And everyone else, I don't really care.
You appreciate the people who appreciated you.
Yeah, because they actually did something.
Yeah.
They weren't like, hey, you're great. Repost a video. They actually like put me on a show. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I want to ask too, why did you stop being a party girl? And let's pull up that photo.
Yeah.
Let's see OG emo Emily. I feel like this original version of Emily, people wouldn't just go and assume it came from all this money and all this privilege. This was the Emily that was, well, you tell your background. What were you doing at the age of 12 and 13?
Well, I was going to my brother's club. My brother was owned one of the biggest nightclubs in LA. So I'm pretty sure I went the first time when I was 13. And then I got out of high school. I technically wasn't even supposed to graduate. They just didn't like me. So I think that my last day of high school, I just remember doing paperwork in an office by myself while everyone was celebrating, signing whatever books. I don't know. I never liked anyone then either. And so, and my mom came and picked me up, was all disappointed in me. And, yeah, no. And then I went straight from that to modeling for a company called Dolls Kill, which is a pretty big company now. And then I just started going out to clubs. It's kind of what girls do in LA. You basically, you go to promoter dinners, you get free food, you go to clubs, you get free alcohol. And then that's kind of just your life. I would do small modeling jobs here and then. And I had pink hair at the time, which was very popular. And I booked some work. I shot for Vans one time and a bunch of random stuff. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So you went from being this wild partying emo girl in LA who was just going crazy, doing all these drugs. And now here you are living this conservative life where all you do is walk your dogs, go on hikes, and stay with your boyfriend and drink matcha.
And clean.
So literally you've gone from the extreme of a party girl to being this extremely traditional girl. Why did you do that? And what has that change been like for you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it was partying to the point where when the cops are coming, I'm almost in jail. So it's not I was going out and having fun. I was I'm going to go as hard as humanly possible and just, full send it. Which, honestly, I had a great time. So I don't know. I don't recommend it, but I also had a really good time. Yeah. And now I'm having a panic attack if I forget the laundry. I don't know. I just think it's just growing up. Yeah. That's why I don't really put pressure on people. I'm you're going to figure it out. You'll be fine. The older you get, those things just become less and less fun. Mm-hmm. They're less and less exciting. And then you find someone you really like. And then you're well, would I rather be here with you or at the club with a bunch of people that kind of suck? And then, it just becomes a different life. You just appreciate and enjoy different things. You enjoy not being hungover. Not putting poison in your body. Waking up early becomes beautiful. And then you're wow, I've done so much today. I just don't think it's good to pressure people to change. I think it needs to be something they want to do. Yeah. That's the difference is I wanted to change. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because anyone shamed me. I was having a great time. Everyone knows that. You just need to let people have a natural progression. Yeah. And also for girls, it's better to get out of that as soon as possible because unfortunately a lot of girls go into their late 30s and you're still doing that and you're oh, that's not what guys want. And it's also not good for you. Deep down, I'm kind of just still the emo girl that hates everybody. I just changed on the outside, but it pisses you guys off.
Yeah, I feel the big difference is there's a world of difference between fun and fulfillment where you start to realize what actually makes you happier in your heart and in the long term rather than just what is fun in that moment, because partying is fun. You are going to have the night of your life, but the next day when you're sitting there hungover and alone and miserable, it's just not it. You feel so much better in the long term when you are prioritizing family, your relationship, wellness, all these different things. I also do think it's funny that so many of the emo party girls that I know who are now sober, they went from doing literal to now their avocados have to be organic.
Literally me. And it's crazy to go from licking drugs off strangers' hands to be if they're seed oils, I just can't do it tonight. Sorry. And you're
so real.
And you're wait, that's crazy. That's a crazy transformation. You're oof, Lord. Ooh. To just really, that, like I said, two different spectrums. But I think it's good to encourage people to to go towards the light when they can.
So you've seen both sides. Do you feel like you've changed as a person?
Okay, so I think we're born who we are, and people don't really change, if that makes sense.
People grow.
I think their actions change. I think what changes my actions. Yeah. I don't do things to purposely harm myself or people around me. I live an authentic life. I don't lie, which is probably why a lot of people don't like me. I'm very brutally honest, and I understand we are now in a world that's so soft. Honesty almost comes off now as confrontational. And at the end of the day, most people are just genuinely energy vampires. That's what I call them. They drain me and I don't get anything back. So I just kind of always felt like a lone wolf, so it works out in what I do now. But at the end of the day, I'm the same. That's why I don't like when people are like, oh, you dye your hair blonde, you are on Fox, and you're like this like stuck up person. I'm like, did you meet me when I was like 12, 15? I've always been a nightmare. I've always been a loner. I've always been a little bit of like a loser or nerd, whatever you want to say. And I've just always been a hater. Like I was just born to hate. Like that's my thing. So yeah, the outside of me has changed in my actions, but who I am hasn't.
You know, and something that I feel like a lot of women realize too, it's like when you go through these emo phases and you want to look scary, you want your exterior to reflect how you are in the inside. But I feel like just being attractive and taking care of yourself and presenting yourself a certain way, people are going to treat you better. Yeah. Doors are going to open. You know, the pink-haired party girl Emily, while she's still on the inside of you, it's like people are going to be less likely to want to help her because they're afraid of her. And they really should still fear you.
Yeah, but in a different way.
But in a different way.
In a respectful way.
They should fear you out of respect.
Yeah.
Back then, they feared you because they didn't know if you were about to crash out.
Yeah.
And now it's more like, okay, this is a woman who cares about herself enough to like put in the effort of presenting herself with strength, because it's not like you're going around like this damsel in distress. It's like you carry yourself as a very strong, confident woman who's standing on business. And
I have like I tell people, I'm like, if you've met me, you've been around me, I have a very like, it's unfortunate, I don't like it, it's like the downfall a lot of the times, I have a very masculine energy. Like very masculine. I grew up close to my dad and my brothers, and it's very, very hard for me to tone it off or down. And that's why I think it's very hard for me to get along with women a lot, because my guy friends, I'm so aggressive, they're just fine with it. They're like, that's just her. But I do think it's hard. I try to be in my feminine, but it's really just not natural for me. So it is what it is.
That reminds me of another one of my favorite clips of you and Dean when you told him he had such feminine energy.
Oh yeah, I said he had toxic feminine energy, which he did. That's what happens when you're not, I mean, yeah, whatever he is, I don't care. Good for him. I don't care. I like his videos. He's like this the whole time. And I'm like,
no,
what
his
is
like body language, like this is what he does like the whole time with his hands.
Yeah, it's almost, at first I was watching it thinking he was like mimicking Trump, like, you know, but I was just like, this is just weird. Everything's weird about it. But yeah, I kind of get offended when people are like, oh, you've changed. It's like, no. I was smart enough to realize that if I wanted to have money and be successful in life and get a boyfriend and all these things, like it was easier to look attractive because people treat you better. And whether people on the left like it or not, people treat you based on the way you look.
Literally.
So if you want to look like you're broke and crazy and have a septum ring and colored hair, then yeah, maybe you'll be stuck in your 40s working at a coffee shop, because that's just not the way the world works. And as much as you want to be accepted, it's just not the reality of things. Like, right. I'm not going to lie. I would love to have pink hair. Like, I would dye my hair pink if I could right now. I think it's so fun. But it's like, look at the way people would look at me and treat me. I would lose jobs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, someone has to pay bills at the end of the day. And it ain't my dad. So, sorry, everybody. Like, it's so weird. I'm like, you think if I didn't have money, like if I had money, it would be in your faces 24/7.
Oh, you'd be a whole fashion blogger.
I would be so much meaner than I already am. And on top of that, I'm like, what? It's just like, what a weird thing to lie about.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm one of the most transparent people about financial things in the industry, which is like a whole nother thing.
Well, that's an allegation as well. So you're a grifter. You're doing right-wing politics for money, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
How's that working out for you?
Well, where's the money? Where is it? Because it's not in my bank account. I'm just wondering where it is.
You know, I think one of the most annoying accusations that I get is people are like, oh, well, you went and became a conservative because you wanted to make all this money. First of all, I would have made more money, been more famous, been more liked, would have had to deal with less censorship, all if I would have went and been a BLM grifter for the rest of my life.
Probably movies on Netflix.
Literally,
I'm not even joking.
I was supposed to be on a Netflix show. The whole reason I did not go on Netflix was because I didn't want to go and be a left-wing grifter once I realized that it was a fraud. So, or realized that BLM was a fraud and then that everything on the left essentially is a fraud.
Yeah.
So it's so funny to me when people are like, oh, well, you're making all this money now. I'm living a comfortable life. I drink my Air One, but trust me, I would be rich and a multimillionaire had I stayed on the left.
Yeah, well, that's how I feel. That's why I thought it was funny, because off camera, I told Dean, I was like, you know what? We both call each other grifters. Let's just get to the chase. I'm going to pull up my bank account and every single deposit in it. You can see exactly who it came from. Full transparency. I'm probably the only person that will ever do this with you. Oh, all of a sudden, I said, you can see how much I make from TikTok, Instagram, everything. Oh, all of a sudden, we don't need to do that.
Right.
And I'm like, here's the thing, like, every single day, I think about how much better my life would be and easier and how much money I would make if I was, I could do fashion blogging, food blogging, I could real estate, I could do any of those things and I'd make more money and I'd be happier and there's no downsides to that. Yeah. And it's like, also people forget that, like, as I'm making all these videos in my car, like, I'm working at a freaking restaurant where everyone there thinks I'm like a psychopath.
And they're power like, Barbie.
Yeah, literally, they're calling me Nazi Barbie. Like, come on, you know what I mean? And it's just like no one sees that part of it. And I don't know, it's like I lost all my best friends, like family members, I'm sure don't like things I say. Like, I have to deal with it all the time. I even have to deal with close friends now, defending myself. And it gets exhausting. I don't know. This is kind of why I'm like honest with young creators. I'm like, I don't think most of you are built for this.
No, that is so real. I did a Q&A with our PragerForce team and like a lot of them are aspiring creators. And I told them, I'm like, we make it look fun.
Yeah. You're seeing the fun
we
side.
do the best that we can, but it can be hell behind the scenes. The amount of spaces we're not allowed into, and like luckily now with some of the changes happening in the country, it is becoming more normalized for conservatives to be in certain spaces, but that is
slow.
Still a fight. Yes, it is very slow. You still have to be super hush-hush about it. Like, I went to a red carpet recently, and even though pretty much everyone there was at least leaning conservative, I still wasn't allowed to be in certain photos, certain videos, because it would have thrown off the promotion for the movie. The second that someone sees that you're concerned, because I had a shirt on. You saw the shirt.
Well.
So it's just so funny to me that people think that it's so glamorous on this side of the aisle now that we've won. But it's like, you have no idea the hell that we have been through in the last 4 years. But I feel like all of it has been worth it because culture is changing. And I feel like you don't give yourself enough credit, but you definitely have been one of the most influential and impactful creators in the last 4 years. And I feel like you really have shifted culture here in Los Angeles.
No, I'm just doing me. I mean, it's cool when like people come. I mean, I've met people that have followed me for 4 years that come up to me and meet me. I'm like, wow, that's like crazy. You've really seen a lot. I've heard a lot of things. And I'm like, that's cool. I mean, like I said, I'm not doing anything special. I'm just saying how I feel, and those were opinions that were kind of crazy. They're mainstream now, but I also like, I've been such a target for so long, and like, that's cool. It's like not fine now, but like, it's like 4 years of trauma, getting like doxxed at my work, having people say stuff about me and my family, which are all not true. I mean, there's just crazy stuff on the internet. Like it's whatever. You guys will see it. It'll all come out eventually.
Well, we have one last allegation. Why have you had so many abortions?
Yeah, I know, right? You know what's really interesting about the abortion debate is when I talk about being pro-choice, no one has ever asked me like what my personal beliefs on that are. And I've even said like the older I get, I do become more pro-life because it becomes a little bit of a situation where you're like, yeah, this is kind of like insane. Like, when I really think about it, like, I understand accidents happen and really horrible things happen, and I think women should always be taken care of it. Like, I would always put, I mean, I do support women. I am a technical feminist, but I'm like personally pro-life, though. Like, I've never had an abortion, thank God. And, like, obviously, I'm 31 years old. I wouldn't have one now. I just think it's also like, it's awful and it's sad and it should be private, but it is kind of interesting because people attack me for that without even knowing my personal beliefs on it. But the older I get, I do become more pro-life because it is just kind of a crazy thing to be like, yeah, I had a wild night. I'm just going to go like kill my baby now.
Yeah, using it as a form of birth control.
Which, like, people say they don't, they do. Like, that you're being irresponsible. Like, why are you doing the one thing to make a baby and then being like, oh my God, I can't believe there's a baby?
You know, if we had proper education around, you know, actual women's health and learning about their cycles and all of that, I feel like you would be able to mitigate so many of the women who are on birth control or getting abortions and all these different things. But our our health system is too busy talking about, you know, transgenderism rather than the things that women actually deal with on a daily basis. And, you know, the reason I ask you, why have you had so many abortions, is because one of the narratives I see about you often is people make up this assumption that you've had so many abortions.
Which is like why I'm pro-choice.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
It's like so bizarre to me that you get all this shame for something that you've never even done. And people will also try to call you a hypocrite because you acknowledge both sides of the aisle. But I feel like what you're saying is very clear and concise. You're saying that you are ideologically pro-life. You believe in protecting the life of a child. You believe in doing what you can to mitigate not having the need to have an abortion. But you also stand behind the legality of women having that option when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
I feel like that is such a mainstream perspective of the abortion topic, but for some reason everybody has just made it so polarizing.
I actually think I have the middle opinion that most Americans have on it.
It's a definition of a compromise.
Yeah, it really is. I think that is the compromise. Like I said, there should be like first trimester. I think it should be cut off after that. I 100% accept that it's a life being taken, and it's also like there's never a situation where it's not a tragedy. So it should be like treated as one.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's like also something like, you know, I do think like it does like spiritual like harm to like a woman's body and all these things. And we should talk about like, let's talk about like what's going to happen up to that point. Let's actually talk about more what's going to happen after that point.
Yeah.
The effects of you and your mind and your body and all these things. But it's funny. I just have like the middle opinion on it. This is something everyone in politics needs to understand moving forward, because it's the conversation I'm starting to have, and it's starting to drive me a little nuts with a lot of different things, because there's a lot of nuance in all these situations. And also I'm very, very intense about the separation of church and state, because everyone has different religions, and we need to understand that we live in America, so we need to respect that. And some people have no religions, and that's okay too. But two things can be true at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of the things that we talk about, and people act like, no, it's just either right or wrong. No, two things can be, you know, I can be able to be like, hey, I think this woman should have the right to do that. And I also think it's technically murder and a tragedy.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like when you do have that conversation, then you're able to come up with real action steps.
Yeah.
When you're able to acknowledge both sides of the aisle and at least like seeing what both sides are saying about this conversation, then you can move accordingly. Because otherwise it's just, otherwise you just have two sides fighting each other saying, which is the point. My side is right, my side is right. And it's like, okay, we get it. Like,
we get it.
We understand what your belief is, but it's like, can we now figure out a way to have a solution so that we can try to reunite our country instead of allowing that issue and other issues that kind of same sentiment applies to continue to divide our country.
Yeah, which is like that, it does. And it's annoying because then like, and people will even vote against things morally just because it's a different team, which I think is also really bad as well. And, you know, I think we're just going to need to get to the point where I do think the middle opinion on these things is going to become more and more popular. I think we're like in a good place right now, or at least we're shifting into a good place. But I don't know. I feel like I have a weird capability that other people don't have. I can just talk about very, very hot topics without just getting emotional about them, where I feel like everyone is so like on a team and die hard. And I'm just kind of like out here on my own. I just don't get emotional about any of these things. I think there's logical solutions to most things, and we should focus on that instead of like what team. The same way, like if a Democrat's going to introduce something, great. If it's a good idea, I want the Democrat to represent that. But I think people are so obsessed with the party. You know what I mean? It's like a lot of like immigration, like because it comes out of like a Republican, they shut it down. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's like a healthy future for anyone. And I will say, I will call out the left and right on this. I don't see any women who are genuinely trying to go out of their way to like educate young women and give them different, you know, paths of birth control. Mm-hmm. I think they're so busy being like, just have sex and abort it. just don't have sex till marriage. It's like, whoa. You guys we need to take both extremes and work together to educate women on their bodies and also to give them other options besides birth control and abortions that are healthy and natural. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't see women on either side really doing that. I think most of the Maha wellness women are pushing that and talking about it, but those are Maha people. That is a little bit different than MAGA.
Yeah.
So I would like more of that. I think that's a more productive conversation to have.
Well, that's definitely an angle that I know you're taking your career that I'm really excited to see. Just you getting more into the health and the wellness space. And I feel like that's a lane that you really could take over because not enough people are talking about like the actual effects of birth control and just all the different ways that women are being poisoned systemically that for far too long that we've taken a blind eye to. So I'm going to have you back, Emily, sometime soon. You know, you're always going to be a friend of the show.
I'm not going anywhere, as I made it very clear.
In fact, this is her show now.
Yeah, this is actually my show. You can leave.
And would.
Yeah, you can go.
Where can everybody find you, Emily?
It's Emily Saves America. You can type it in. It'll come up. Everything will come up.
And if your page doesn't come up first, it's going to be somebody attacking you. And hopefully they tagged you for once.
No, it's I'm good. It's all my socials. And then people are all my top searches, which are also weird. So sorry.
Well, thank you, Emily. Okay, everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Respectfully. You know the vibes. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Let us know who you want me to have on the show next and how you're liking the show so far. There is a link in the description. It is a survey for you to let us know how much you've been enjoying the show so far, or if there's anything you want to drag me about. That is your opportunity and your safe space. So thank you guys. I'll see you soon. Emily, why should people watch my show?
If you want to see more great content, just like what we just shot, then subscribe to Respectfully.
Period.
Period. Period.